I remember how the feds laughed when Trump said he advised Canada to join the United States because otherwise it would fall apart. They laughed, chuckled, and twisted things, but Canada is falling apart without joining the United States. As Trump predicted, the election of yet another Liberal politician to lead the Canadian Union made those who feed millions of freeloaders realize that the hope for reforms was not fulfilled. Alberta, for example, produces agricultural products and pumps oil and gas. Residents of Alberta pay into the federal budget 6 to 7 times more than they get back. Most of the funds go to support other provinces because Canada invented a system that it called equalization payments, what we would call leveling. In other words, in British Columbia, for example, there could be 1 million people living off the state, either not working or working part-time. And British Columbia doesn't have enough funds to pay for their health care, their social needs, their education. And Canada threatens, it robs. That is, it robs. Let me explain the word robs. It forcibly takes from Alberta what it has in excess. And excess means what they've earned, which they would like to spend on their own needs. But they call it expropriation. Oh, what a word I remembered from Soviet life. Until Trump mentioned the 51st state, the residents of Alberta were outraged, but they endured. Suddenly, they had some kind of opportunity that they didn't have before. They hadn't even thought about it. The path to inequality they had dreamed of. They were already fed up with equality. We said the residents of Alberta, and also that neighboring little Saskatchewan, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, we want to keep what we've earned. What bad people they are, they want to keep what they've earned. They surveyed and found 94% of the population. That's not just a majority, gentlemen, that's nearly everyone you meet. They believe that Canada is robbing them. 70% of the population is either strongly in favor of separation or doesn't mind it. Alberta is currently led by a very active woman, the provincial premier, Danielle Smith. She put forward a demand to Ottawa. Ottawa is the capital, like we say Washington here. So she made a demand to Ottawa, and if not, then what?
Until I see tangible evidence of real changes, Alberta will take steps to better protect itself from Ottawa. To begin with, I will soon appoint a special negotiation team that will represent our province in talks with the federal government regarding the following reforms requested by our province. First, Alberta demands guaranteed access to corridors and ports on the Pacific, Arctic, and Atlantic coasts for international oil exports. Second, the federal government must stop any federal interference in the development of provincial resources. Third, the federal government must refrain from imposing export taxes or restrictions on Alberta's resource exports without the consent of the Alberta government. And fourth, the federal government must provide Alberta with the same federal transfers and per capita equalization, just like the other 3 largest provinces, Quebec, Ontario, and British Columbia.
So if we don't get this, basically A, our money, and B, access for our oil to global markets, then we're in trouble, guys. Goodbye. I won't sing because I have absolutely no musical ear. Well, basically, we're going to separate from you guys.
Thank you. Alberta just poked a hole in Ottawa's carefully crafted narrative. While Mark Carney's government is stalling with the pipelines, Danielle Smith went south and made a deal directly with the United States. The ink is fresh, the numbers are huge, and the symbolism is even greater. For years, Alberta was told to wait, to compromise, and to put up with the costs of federal climate goals, watching its resources pile up without being able to use them. Now it sends a message. If Ottawa won't build the future, Alberta will find someone else who will. And in Washington, the reception couldn't be more different. American officials present this as a victory for energy security, a way to ensure more reliable oil at a time when global supplies are unstable. For Alberta, it's a breakthrough. That could mean billions in export revenue. For Ottawa, it's a political nightmare. Carney earned his reputation by maintaining control, preserving the Federation, and keeping things favorable for investors. Yes, but guess what? This deal shows that control is slipping away.
The most interesting part will be at the end of this broadcast. Saskatchewan has now joined Alberta's Saskatchewan. He said it right, I think. Besides, there are also discussions in Manitoba about potentially joining with these guys. It's hard to secede from Canada, hard, almost impossible, but still almost not completely impossible. Only if you must change the laws of nature, or human nature, which is also a law of nature. If 1, 2, or 3 provinces demand to secede, and with the goal of joining the United States, the rest of Canada won't have many options. So, first of all, you could send in troops, but I suspect that the Canadian Armed Forces won't go for it. And what about separation with the loss of those who bring in the bread and butter? Or a complete transition to the United States with all of Canada begging to be accepted as a territory, a state, or something like that? Wouldn't that change the political balance of power in the United States? Many Canadians are so used to living at the expense of producers. In other words, at the expense of someone who works hard for them and gives most of their earnings to them. Honestly, we don't want to take them in unless they've wandered in the desert for 50 years. It's not good. If they wander the desert for 50 years and return, they'll probably ask to be accepted, and will likely accept them. Daniel Smith, this so-called Prime Minister of the United States of America, bypassed the federal government. Canada, signed an agreement on an oil pipeline to the state of Montana, United States of America, and there are oil refineries there built specifically for Canadian oil. This is the first real step towards independence. From this, it becomes clear that Trump didn't act on a whim. Not out of stupidity, as the fat Russian-speaking human-like people stated Kanadia. So he knew about the problems with oil, taxes, and the extreme dissatisfaction of several Canadian provinces with the government. But he didn't go to them himself. Instead, he threw out this idea, which they could pick up and come to him. That's exactly what happened. It's better to negotiate when they approach you. Subtitles by Dima Torzok.
Now, Alberta has completely changed the game with this new pipeline deal. We're talking about a 42-inch pipeline designed to transport 1 million barrels a day straight to American refineries.
1 million barrels a day, which are specifically
built to process heavy oil. That's the deal in Alberta. The province has already invested $350 million in land acquisition and regulatory compliance.
They said it, started doing it, investing money, buying up land.
Alberta just shocked everyone by announcing a major pipeline deal with the United States. A move that could easily get approval and significantly speed up Alberta's economy, considering the growing talk of independence. This deal isn't just about oil. It's about finding a partner to keep Alberta's economy strong without Canada, since Alberta has already struggled from insufficient pipelines. Most Canadians see the lack of pipeline capacity as a crisis. In Alberta, it causes a feeling of rage. Daniel Smith stood up and basically said, "Guess what? We're building our own damn pipeline with the United States. And this isn't some small side project. We're talking about a monster that will move 1 million barrels a day. A full-scale 42-inch oil pipeline straight to the market, to those who really want energy." Alberta, instead of strangling it with regulations, became a symbol. And the best part, from TVA wasn't even involved. No federal hearings, no consultations, none of the usual circus where ministers pat themselves on the back for doing nothing. And forget about Bill C-69, the so-called No More Pipelines law. Alberta didn't wait, they went their own way. Continued. Danielle called this a step towards sovereignty and nation building. Honestly, she's right.
Canada's working regions chose not to support the other provinces. They said it's not about oil, it's about wanting to reshape the way of life. We want to reshape the approach to work, rights, property, it should belong to the one who earned it. That is, we want to live like in the United States of America that Donald Trump is building. So there you have it, silly little Trump. And now what will happen to Canada if Alberta leaves? Well, plus they'll be gone. First, the loss of a huge portion of oil and gas revenues, if I'm not mistaken, 80% of oil and 50% of gas, which support the federal budget and equalization among the regions. Second, a sharp tax increase due to this. The remaining part falls on the working population in the territory. We have to support people who don't work and are used to living off others, including officials. Third, the exodus of large companies and specialists from Canada to the United States. Everyone knows what will happen, so the smarter and wealthier will leave. Fourth, a review of all international trade agreements. Fifth, in Canada, Canada. Fourth, in. There will be a massive restructuring of infrastructure related to energy, transportation, and pension funds. That's all. Here is the capital outflow from the country. Alberta itself could double its economy by joining the United States. Lowering taxes on the population, Canada is losing its status as one of the G7 countries, the world's largest economies, and is slowly turning into a marginal state. And Alberta will strengthen and boost the already powerful United States. Including Alberta will increase United States energy independence and lower prices for gasoline and other fuels. Alberta becomes the energy superstate of our union. Who benefits from this? Right now, that's the most important thing. The people of Alberta and those Canadians who managed to move there before the separation. Second, the people of the United States benefit. Economically and in terms of energy, this is a very advantageous alliance for us. The remaining Canadian provinces and their populations lose out, as does their economic situation. That means their standard of living will drop sharply. This will lead to seismic changes in Canadian politics and possibly to the breakup of the remaining union, or tearful pleas from Canada to be accepted into the United States with any status. Once again, there you go. But is it true that Trump is a fool who doesn't know what he's talking about? Or are the fools those who, knowing nothing, start throwing mud at him or anyone else? Because one of the signs of stupidity is when you start expressing an opinion without having the slightest idea about the facts that even need to be discussed. Or something else. Yes, man, you know, we say the words smart person. Usually, oh, he's a smart person. Look, a good physicist, a good engineer, or someone else, so to speak. Oh, what a smart person. He played the role of some prince well, but one thing has nothing to do with the other. A smart person is someone who bases his judgments on verified facts and checks his logic. That's all. And everything else is not intelligence. It's the ability to memorize and then quickly recall everything. Goodbye and see you very soon.